No, now. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3, action.
Visionaries, C1A, take one.
And action. Hi, Mana, and welcome to our interview today at the Art Institute of Atlanta. How are you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, you know, when we first met, you told me something very interesting about your mom. Would you share that with us today?
Sure, thank you. Wow, my mother is a beginner. She was a plumber. She started in 1972. She's been an entrepreneur for plumbing since that time. Started as a little girl, and she was the first minority female plumber in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's how I learned how to do plumbing.
Wow, how interesting that was. Well, what was her name?
Catherine.
Where was she born?
Catherine E. Elizabeth Carter. That's her her maiden name is Carter. She was born here in Atlanta, Georgia, and her birthday is February 14, 1937.
A February 14th baby. How nice.
Yes. Yes.
Now, how did your mom come to learn her trade?
Wow. There was an older man that lived in her community, and she saw him doing plumbing work in the basement at his home. And she asked him if he could teach her how to do plumbing. And he said yes. And she was about 12, 13 years old. Yes.
At 13 to have that kind of vision.
Yes.
Oh, that makes you proud, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, very much. Yes. Yes.
How did that make you feel as a girl?
Wow. Great to know that I was able to watch my mother being a plumber, and she's a woman, and I'm a little girl, and
it didn't seem unusual, did it?
No, not at all. Not at that point. No, not as a little girl.
And when did you start becoming a plumber?
Oh, my mother started me when I was about 13, 14 years old. But I started working with her at 9, doing her secretary work.
Wow, at 9 years old?
Yes.
That's pretty incredible.
Yes.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. How many siblings do you have?
17 of us in all.
Tell us about that.
Whoa.
How did they meet, your mom and dad?
Oh, now that's a wonderful story. My parents met. My mother and my father worked at Atlanta Housing Authority. My father come here in Atlanta, Georgia, from Martinville, Virginia. Well, he was born in Martinville, Virginia, and he moved here from Toledo, Ohio in 1971, 72. And my mother was working in Atlanta Housing Authority, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And she was in Perry Home, Perry Home, and they was doing the modelization in Atlanta Housing Authority. And my father saw her coming across the field with a sink.
With a sink?
With a sink.
How incredible was that?
Well, it was incredible because when he saw her, he said his first word was, "I gotta find me an angel." And the angel was her. And that's how they met. And he went on and introduced himself to her. And they've been inseparable ever since. In 43 years of inseparable.
That is lovely.
Yes.
And how did your mom and dad introduce themselves as a couple to the family?
Oh, well, my dad, my mother came home. My mother came home and told us that she met this man, and he was going to, that we needed to sit down, and she brought him home, and it was like the next day, really, but she told us that day that she had met him, and his name was William Wade, and they call him Bill, and that's how he came over the next day, and he sat down and he said, "I'm in love with your mother, and we're going to be a family." And that was how they came and introduced themselves and introduced him, and we became a family.
Wow.
And he had,
And 17 children?
it's 17 of us.
And how did your siblings, what was their reaction to this?
Wow. Well, 17 of us, and all of us having different minds, but sibling rivalry, as you will call it, and but we all managed to get along as we grew older and time went by, but we never had too much fights as far as physical. Certain words we would say to each other, but nothing out of
You
disrespectfully.
want to share those certain words?
Well, we would just say, we would have a look, or, still love you, but nothing disrespectful. Everything was really respectfully, but nothing disrespectfully, because we knew our parents didn't tolerate disrespectful. So we knew we had to stay, within range of being respectfully to each other. So we grew up to know that enough was enough, or not too much. So everybody had their chance. It was nice, and we learned how to love each other as one, and there was no separation in the home. So
So
it
the
was
spiritual
a one.
upraising helped
Yes,
in that.
yes,
That's beautiful.
yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Now tell me this, what age did you start learning how to be a plumber?
Wow.
You told me about you, so you know I have to ask that question.
I was about 13 when I saw my mother, and she taught me how to do plumbing. And I knew that I wanted to do what she was doing, because she was a woman, and I was a little girl, but I wanted to do what she was doing.
Very good. And how did you feel when she was sharing all of this and you're a little girl?
Oh, excited. Excited. Scared, but excited. I wanted to learn how to be a plumber. Because, again, I watched my mother do a lot of plumbing in our apartment, and I wanted to do what she did. So.
And how did it make you feel to have a mom in that time period learning this, teaching you?
Wow.
It had to be a good feeling.
It was amazing to know that my mother, being a woman, a single parent at that time, but knowing that she was able to do what she was doing as a woman, and as me being a little girl, knowing that I had a mother that knew how to do this type of work, I wanted to do the same. I always wanted to follow my mother's footsteps, and I learned.
So now, what was your dad's specialty?
My dad is a plasterer. He was a plasterer. He started plastering at the age of 15 in Martinville, Virginia, before he moved here in Atlanta, Georgia. Yes, he was a
Wow,
plasterer.
15.
Yes, at the age of 15, he
Isn't that
started learning how to
amazing?
plaster.
Both your parents started as teenagers,
Yes, they did.
knowing
Yes.
what they wanted to do,
Yes,
and then having such a vision
yes,
to push that forward.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Now tell us about the plastering business and how he taught it to you.
Wow. Well, at the age of 9,
9.
at the age of 9, my dad would take me after school. He would pick me up from school and take me on a job, and I would watch him plaster. And I watched him, and at the age of 13, from 9 years old till I was 13, I plastered with him all the way to 13 and learned how that became my trade.
Wow. So that became your passion as well.
Yes, yes, plastering is my passion. I love plastering. I love it.
What's the most fascinating part of that you like?
Ooh, when I step back and I see the finish of the work that I've done, and knowing that when I go to the residential homes or commercial buildings, or doing a small or a large patch, or doing big walls or ceilings, I can stand back and watch a smile on the customer face, or just my face, knowing that I did a great job when I left, or getting ready to leave. And so I just knew that, seeing what great skill that my dad had, and he embedded that into us as the children that took his trade up. I truly wanted to be a plasterer, and that's what made me wanting to get involved and to continue to plaster.
Well, definitely lights your face up, so I know that's
Yes.
something you enjoy.
Yes.
Very good. And tell us about I remember you told me when we first met that when your family built these homes, they didn't just build the homes, they helped a community by having what type of trees in the yards to help feed the community in which they lived.
Well, the trees became part of us, really, the family. And then it was what came behind the trees when my mother decided to plant them between the houses. And there was the peach tree, the plum tree, the apple tree, and the pear tree. So it's between the two or three houses that's right there in the middle. And it was a passion of my mother that she always...
Take your time. Thank you. She's always been caring, right?
She's always caring. She's always been involved in the community. She always cared for other people. She always cared for her family. And nothing that she have done or did that she didn't think about what beautify, someone else as well as her family. And so when she started planting the plants, when we was in Capitol Homes and we lived in an apartment, she always planted. She always did her fruit. She always did her little trees. She always did the flowers. So that just was something that she grew up with. And that, when my dad came, and she still had that significant with her, in her beautification. So it never died, and she just always been a planter. She just had that green thumb, and just loved it.
And serving the community in which she lived.
Yes.
Remember you told me they built homes in Louisiana?
We went to plaster the homes in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. There was a home there that they wanted to plaster. And so we drove down to Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and plastered the homes in there. So, you know, it was word of mouth. We did good on one job, word of mouth, we did another job. So we always had someone to say something good and to let other people know how and what type of work. Not only just the work, but it was what the character of my parents, you know, that took them with the job. They didn't go to the job. They took it with them, and then the warmth that they had when we was there, when we left, and it gave the people, you know, that warmth to give back to us, and I felt so good behind that, how they just
Okay.
it was just so much with my parents that
And how long did they have their business? Because I think you told me it was quite a
Ooh.
long time that they had a company going.
30, 40 years that they was in business was for themselves. 40
Beautiful.
years. And they was married 43.
Wow.
Yes.
What a legacy
Yes.
they have left you. What
Yes.
visionaries in a time when that was sort of unheard of.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
God bless you, Dawn.
God bless you. Love you.
I love you too. You have a beautiful legacy. Thank you for sharing that.
I appreciate it.